Hey everybody, Barrett with Salty Dog Performance, and today I've got my ski that I'm going to be working on. And today's video is going to be for an install that a lot of people have been asking me to do, and it's going to be for a camshaft. So yeah, I'm not going to be installing the white box. There's a camshaft in here. This is from Riva Racing. This is for their Sea-Doo supercharged engines. And I have had a camshaft on here before. I'm not going to name the name of this company. If you follow me online, I'm sure you've seen me talk about that, but I'm not going to name them, not going to flame them here on my channel or anything. I can say that cam did make pretty good power, but it was very inconsistent for me. I had very inconsistent compression numbers, and took that cam out, put the stock cam back in it, and boom, all my compression came back to normal. With that aftermarket cam, it would be 140 in cylinder 3, 118 in cylinder 2, and 120 in cylinder 1. Put the stock cam back in it, it was 140 across the board. So, I wasn't very happy with that. So I took it out, put the stock cam back in it, and just been waiting to get another aftermarket cam to do it. And in this one I chose to do the Riva cam. I have a really good working relationship with Riva for all the OEM parts that I order and tuning related things and stuff. I've had a very good relationship with those guys. And I've installed one of the Riva camshafts, and out of the camshafts that I have installed, I've installed the 3 major ones, being the Callus, Ruthless cam, and the Riva one. Out of those 3, the easiest one that I've seen to tune, the best at idle, has been the Riva one. And this is a rec riding ski. I wanted to be able to just take it out and have fun with it, be able to do a little bit of fast speed pulls and stuff like that, racing my buddies and things, but still be able to cruise with it. The other cam that I had in here, I just wasn't able to do that. I'd be going through the no wake zone and go to change direction, flip the throttle, and it would die on me. Now I understand that there are some tuning things that you could do, raise the idle RPM and do a couple other things like that. But with this cam, I know I don't have to do all that kind of stuff. It's very easy to tune with, and I've seen it make very good power. I've got a friend that's got an Apex 23 Apex RXTX, and he's hit 90 with his 142 wheel on it. We're going to see what it's going to do. This ski does have a 135 wheel already on it and the bigger injectors, so we'll see what it does with it. But today we're going to focus more on just the installation. This is going to be if you've got to replace your factory cam, if you're upgrading to an aftermarket one like this. So this is good for anybody that wants to learn how to do that. When I hear the piss numbers about who has the better cam or anything like that, this is the one that I've chosen to go with based off of my experience and the riding that I do. I think this one is going to suit what I do with it the best. So enough chit chat, move over to the workbench, show you guys the cam, show you the other OEM stuff that you're going to need for the install. Okay, so we'll go ahead and unbox our camshaft here. And when you get it, this is how it's going to come in these boxes. It'll be in this brown wax paper. And when you take it out, it's going to have all this brown waxy stuff on it. It's called cosmoline. And this stuff is actually a preservative to keep any of this metal from rusting while it's sitting on the shelf. So we're actually going to need to clean that off. We're going to take like a microfiber rag and put brake clean on it, and we're going to clean all that stuff off. You do not want that on there. To lubricate the camshaft when we go to put it into the engine, I'm going to use Disassembly lube. I have used this on all kinds of engine builds, from Hondas to anything you can imagine, and it always works really good. I use it on the cams too. For our OEM stuff that we're going to need, now the camshaft bolts, starting in 2016 when they came out with the 300 engine, they came out with this newer style, and you guys have seen it in my my camshaft bolt upgrade video. And these can be reused. I've got these in the ski. They can be reused, but for today's video, I'm just going to go ahead and put a new set on them that already have the Loctite on them. But you can reuse the factory ones using blue Loctite 243. It's not a problem to reuse them. If you've got an older ski prior to 2016, they're probably just going to have the regular old hex heads that don't have the larger flange on it, and you're going to want to replace those. they're pretty weak, so you're going to want to do that. So the part number on those is 428 I'm sorry, 420-841-080. You're gonna need 3 of those. And then we're gonna be using the factory torque screws for the rockers. So a lot of people will say, just use ARP, use the ARPs. Well, the ARP ones are quite large, and you'll see these are designed in a way to where the shank is skinnier to allow oil flow through that and to go into the rocker arm. So I always use the OEM ones, and they're torque to yield. So there are people that'll tell you can torque to yield and use them twice. I don't do that. I just go ahead and replace them. They're cheap. It's like $36 for a set of them. I just replace them if I'm doing any valve train, if I'm doing valve springs and retainers, doing a cam, anything like that where I have to take the rockers off, I just get a new set of OEM. You're going to need 6 of those. This is our washer. It says copper washer, which actually it's like silver. But this one is going to be for our crankshaft locking tool hole on the bottom of the block. And real quick, I'm going to show you this. Sorry, I forgot to tell you. The part number is 420-641-080 on these torque screws. And again, you will need 6 of those. So this one is for the little plug that's below the intake manifold. You guys will see here in a little bit. And you go ahead and replace these every time you take it off. They are a crush washer. Part number 420-250-016. And then we're going to have, this is called a gasket ring. Essentially the exact same thing as this, but it's a little bit larger. This is going to be for our camshaft chain, our cam chain tensioner. So the part number on that is 420-430-624. So I'm going to lay down a couple of more shop rags on here and go ahead and get all this Cosmoline cleaned up. And then we'll start disassembling the engine. Next time you guys see this camshaft, it'll be cleaned up. It'll have some lube on it and everything, and just be over here on some clean rags. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is go ahead and take our coil packs out, take our spark plugs out, because we are going to need to be able to turn the engine over to get it to top dead center if it's not there when we take the valve cover off. And we're going to unclip or take off all the zip ties here to remove our engine harness out of the way, remove our fuel rail, remove our fuel line from the fuel rail. When we do that, we need to have a rag to catch all that gas, and we'll go ahead and stick like a little shop towel inside of the fuel rail to keep any excess fuel from coming out. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, 7 bolts that we're going to take off to be able to take the intake manifold off. And we're also going to disconnect our hose here from the throttle body. Now, if you've got a factory intake on here for whatever reason, if you're still running the factory intake and going to be changing over to an aftermarket one after you do the camshaft upgrade and tuning upgrades, we're just going to remove that factory hose that typically goes there. I'm just going to remove my intake here as well. I've got a catch can by Works here that uses the 2 bolts that attach the blow-by valve to the engine. We're going to go ahead and remove that. We're going to remove our camshaft position sensor below that, and then we're going to remove our valve cover as well. Hey everybody, so I did make one mistake earlier. I did not mean to say this. I said to remove the cam position sensors. Well, you do not have to remove that. I'm just used to doing that. I was doing another video the other day and it was part of what I had to remove. So once you get the valve cover off, there is this little metal plate in here that covers up our cam gear bolts. We're going to go ahead and remove that before we start turning the engine over to get it to top dead center, just in case this plastic is loose. And on the older ones, it didn't have little tabs in there to hold it in place. So to get it out, I just put my finger in, pull out, and then I'll lift it up like that, and then just kind of push it off with my finger inside there, pick it up, move it over to a tray. And we're going to go ahead and get the engine to top dead center. So we're going to need to get a 17 millimeter. If you've got a stock supercharger or you're using a wheel that retains the stock supercharger nut, you're going to use a 17 millimeter socket, short extension, and you're going to turn the supercharger clockwise to be able to get the flywheel to turn counterclockwise and get our cam gear to get at the top dead center. And you're going to see 2 lines on the cam gear cover right here. Once you see those two lines come up and it'll say 1503 on either side, you're going to know you're at top dead center, and then we'll go from there. Side of the engine, we're going to go ahead and take a 6mm Allen, and we're going to take off this little cap down there, and we're going to put in our crank locking tool. Because we're not going to be putting a lot of torque onto the motor, we can just put this side into the into the crank rather than having to put this one in and thread it in. So we can just drop that in there because we're just really wanting to hold everything in place. So what we're going to be taking off is that little Allen right there, and that is our camshaft, or our cam chain tensioner right there. So to get to that, we're going to have to take off that plug here in just a little bit. We'll go ahead and put our crank locking tool in. Okay, so we have our crank locked. I've got this cam retarded just a little bit, okay? So the cam locking tool is not going to go in there right now. So that's not a big deal. I've got the crank locked. I'm not too worried about that. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go ahead and take off all the rocker bolts here and pull the rockers out of the way. And then I'll show you how to take the cam gear bolts out. And later on, when we put the new cam in, we are going to be able to put this in. We'll be able to rotate the cam to where it'll be at top dead center. And we'll want to lock our cam and our crank because we do want those set to factory timing. You don't want to advance or retard an aftermarket cam. It's just going to be too aggressive for it. You don't want to do that. So, or you're not going to get the correct performance that you need out of that. These cams are designed with the with the engine timing, the mechanical timing set to top dead center. So to be able to take these off, there's going to be 6 bolts here. We're just going to get an E10 and a 3-inch ratchet and go ahead and take those off. So we're going to go ahead and take our spark plug tubes out as well. Set those over to the side. And then we'll go ahead and take our bolts out completely. Sorry for the shaky camera here. We'll just grab our rocker and just grab it in the middle like that. Up and away they go. And we'll take them and move them over to the workbench where we've got some clean rags laid out. And we're good to go. Okay, so we've got our rockers out of the way, and we're going to need to take our cam chain tensioner off right here. So that's going to be an 8mm Allen, and we're going to need to disconnect that plug right there to be able to access that. Once we pull out that plug, we're going to use a magnet, and there's going to be a cylinder on the inside of that we're going to need to pull out. I'll show you that in just a second. Okay, so you can see that the bolt is out, and we're just going to take our magnet here. We're going to pull the cylinder out. Please remember this orientation. So that nice, flat, smooth surface has got to go in. That's actually going to hit your plastic cam chain guide. So we're going to take this and put it in a safe space. So now that we've got the tension off of the chain, we can go ahead and remove our cam chain guide on the other side. And this one you can actually remove while the tension is still on the chain. It's not that big of a deal. I just waited until now since I was going to be on this side. So just move that guy out of the way. And then there's a locker here for the camshaft to keep it from moving in and out. I'm going to wait until I take the cam gear off to take it off. I just wanted to point that out that once you take off the cam gear, you're going to need to take that out. So we're going to use a T30. And these bits that I found at Harbor Freight, they're kind of long, skinny. So they're going to be a T30. These work really well for this application. So there's 3 bolts on the cam gear, and we're going to go ahead and take those off. All 3 bolts are out of the cam gear now. We can go ahead and just slide that forward, and we're going to lift up on the chain. Kind of move it around to the sides like that. It'll fall off the back. And we're going to pull our cam gear out like that. Set it to the side. And since we're not utilizing our cam gear locking tool right now, we can just take it like this. Run it through and set it to the side like that. We're going to grab our lock out of the back of the cam, and then you can just kind of push on one of the lobes. You'll see the cam start to come out, Don't try to force it out if it starts to bind. Just kind of move it back and forth and wiggle it. There are no bearings inside of these journals in here. It is just the head that is machined, so you do want to be careful. Make sure not to nick anything, try to force anything. Just keep pulling it out. And there we go. OEM camshaft is out. Okay, before we move on to installing the cam, I've got the OEM cam here on the right, Riva cam on the left. I'm going to scale here, and we're just going to weigh them in grams. It's probably the easiest thing to see a weight difference on it. And you can see these are pretty cut out here in these center journals. So let's weigh the OEM cam first. (2,152 grams. Zero it back out. And our Riva cam. (1,996 grams. So we've lost 152. So 156 grams lighter. So that's quite a few ounces lighter. So yeah, that's already going to save us some weight right there and help us get those RPMs up a little bit quicker, give us some acceleration. So yeah, I've gone ahead and pre-lubed this over here. Might put a little bit more on it, and we'll go ahead and put it back into the engine. Just we're back over the steam. We've got the cam here, so we'll go ahead and put that back in. And be careful to not hit our journals inside the head as much as we can. You start to feel it kind of bind up, just kind of move it back here a little bit. And again, you might have to lift it from the back some to kind of support it. Now, once you get it all the way in, we're going to take our little locking key here. And you're going to see the groove on the back side that's actually going to go towards the front of the motor. You drop that. Then you might have to move the cam a little bit. Once it goes in, you can see I can't push that cam back out. So now we're going to need to put our cam chain and the cam gear back on. You're going to see that it's got two little lines right here, and we're going to try to get those as parallel to the top of the head as possible. So we're going to take our cam locking tool, put that in this hole right here to lock our cam in place. And for whatever reason, if it's not locking, you just have to kind of rotate the cam and it'll slide into that groove that's on the left side of the cam. Now, putting these back on can be a little bit tricky. So it's just really about feel.
Like I said, it can be a little bit tricky. The cam chain will bind up on you. Move this out of the way for just a brief second. It's a little bit easier to try to put the camera on the chain from this side first, so you've got it locked in place. So now I'm going to put this onto the cam and just hold it in place, and you can see I only have the left mark and it's up here, it's no good, right? So what we're going to have to do is pull that back off and separate it from the chain, rotate it, and then just keep doing it until we get to where we need to be.
Almost there. We are 1 tooth off. I can tell this line is below here. We want this line to be up above the top of the head, and this one over here to be almost level with it. So that's how you're going to know if it's dead on. So we are off by 1 tooth exactly.
I wish there was an easier way to explain this to you guys on how to do it, but it's, like I said, it's really just about feel. And then you have to just strong arrow, put it on, if it doesn't line up, take it back off, put it back on again. And
there we go. That is exactly what we're looking for. So you can see that there's a lot of play in it right now. So once we take and we put our new cam gear bolts in here, we're going to just lightly put them in there, and we're going to go ahead and put our cam chain tensioner back on. Once that is nice and tight in the cam chain tensioner, we've got that all torqued down, then we will torque down our bolts, because that is going to make sure that we've got the timing at true top dead center. So that is the way that you're going to need to do it. And I'll go ahead and grab the bolts, and we'll go ahead and start working on that. Okay, once you've got the cam chain tensioner tightened, the torque spec on that is going to be 150 pound-inch plus or minus 18. So I do them between 150 to 160. That one I just did the 160. And again, you want to use a new washer on it. If you only taken it off once, you can reuse those washers, but I prefer it not to leak, not to back out or anything. They're cheap. I just go ahead and put a new one on it. And these bolts were loose in here. Put the cam chain tensioner in it, and you can see that it actually kind of spun this back just a little bit, put a little more tension on it. So now we're going to torque these down, because this is going to be true top dead center now that we've got our cam chain tensioner in. This is all rotated back. We're going to be able to get this at true top dead center. And I'm going to be doing these to 150 pound-inch as well. Now that we've got all those tightened down, we can go ahead and put our cam chain guide back in on this side. And we can take out our camshaft locking tool and our crankshaft locking tool, and we'll go ahead and put the new washer on our crankshaft locking tool port. And that's also going to get torqued to 150 pound-inch plus or minus 18 as well. And that one again is going to be a 6 millimeter. So now that all that's taken care of, we got everything set into timing correctly. And sometimes I do want to point out that the camshaft locking tool can get a little bit tight on there. You might have to just wiggle it a little bit, or go back and kind of move the engine just a little bit. It can get a little tight taking out of there. My tool is not an OEM one as well, so that could be part of the reason. I do need to get an OEM tool because I like having all the OEM stuff. We're going to push that side of the way. We'll go ahead and put our rockers back down. Since they just came out of the engine, we shouldn't have to be oiling them back down. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and take our new bolts. You don't oil these or anything like that. And we're just going to take these and lightly screw them into place. So the torque sequence is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Per the book, it says to go to 15 foot-pounds right away and then do an additional 90. So you are going to need a digital torque wrench. It's the best way to do it because it will tell you if you've gone to like 40 degrees and you have to ratchet it back, and it'll keep counting until you get to actual 90. A digital torque wrench is the best way to do that, rather than guessing, oh, I'm here, now I'm at 90. You don't really want to do that. Just use a digital torque wrench. It takes the guesswork out of it, but I use a click style wrench for the initial torque. Now, like I said, it does say go to 15 initially, but I like to break it up in half. I'll go 7.5, do the torque sequence, and then go back and do 15, do the torque sequence, and then do an additional 90 for the torque sequence. So I'm just going to use my little electric drill here and put these down hand tight initially. I've already got these tightened up to the 15 foot-pound, and I'm going to show you guys, so you can see on my wrench here, it's showing it's set to 90 degrees, and I'll show you what I was talking about earlier with a digital wrench. So I'm going to pull it off and show you. It shows me now that I'm at 60 degrees, right? So that means if I needed to ratchet it back, I go back. I've still got 30 more degrees to go until I hit. And it'll keep counting Now you can see I'm at 90. So pretty cool feature. And then you just kind of hit the power button again, and it'll reset, and we're ready to go back to our next one. So you just keep repeating the process. Like I said, it just makes it really nice because you can ratchet it. So all of these are torqued down. We've got our cam gear tightened back down. We still just need to put our little cover in here for it. We'll do that later on before we start to put the blow-by valve back on here. But yeah, so really it's just reverse order now. We're going to reassemble everything. I like to put the valve cover and everything back on before I put the intake manifold back on. Intake manifold sequence is, I'll show it to you guys real quick. So they're going to be 85 pound-inch. You're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They're going to be 85 pound-inch. And then your valve cover, I'll show you that as well. So here's the valve cover. And I'm kind of doing this upside down. So the torque on this is going to be 80 pound-inch plus or minus 9 pound-inch. I always do like 85, and you're going to do a two-part sequence. So number one is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You're going to do those to 85 pound-inch, and then you're going to go back and repeat 1 through 4. So 1, 2, 3, and 4 to 85 pound-inch. So that's all that I got for you guys today. So make sure that you flash the appropriate tune, and you've got all the appropriate hardware and everything on here. So valve spring retainers, you're definitely going to need those at a minimum. You don't need the aftermarket valve spring upgrades. They're just really stiff, and you really don't need them unless you are doing some kind of serious racing where you're coming unhooked, or you just drive like a maniac where you're jumping out of the water and you're keeping the rev limiter pegged and it's bouncing off the rev limiter. The stock springs are fine. I ran these all last year, running much higher than factory RPM, and I never had an issue whatsoever out of them. So yeah, just make sure you guys have all the supporting mods, supporting tune and everything, and that's all I've got for you. So I hope you all take it easy and have a good day, and we'll see you for the next video.